Time currently T-minus 10 minutes, 46 seconds and counting. Certainly has been a busy day in space flight and space-related activities. Of course, earlier today we saw the spacewalk from NASA astronaut Anil Menon and European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adno, marking the first time that a French woman has conducted a spacewalk. They were intending to remove and install a replacement communications array, and they were successful in removing and stowing in a temporary configuration the BAD array that provides redundant communications and high resolution data coming from the station, but they were unable to get it back to where they had intended. It took them longer during the spacewalk than planned at certain portions of undoing some of the bolts on a piece of hardware that's been affixed to the station for, oh gosh, since 2009, I believe it was. Also, as we're getting ready to see SpaceX launch its, let's see, this will be, again, the 679th Falcon 9 rocket and the 614th time that SpaceX will have flown a rocket again. This was also a big day for commercial space flight in China. Some videos shared by Landspace of their first stage booster coming back, ZQ-3, performing a propulsive landing following its flight earlier this evening. This remarkable since, unlike the first recovered booster that we saw from China, this is the first one to propulsively land on land following an orbital flight. Also, speaking of recovery, work continues to recover SpaceX's Starship upper stage, Ship 40, which flew back on the Flight 13 mission. They are still keeping that afloat, and we've learned from SpaceX that they intend to continue the recovery efforts and bring this ship back to Starbase. So, quite a hearty 24 days it has been for the recovery team to get this ship over to the coast of Christmas Island. And the recovery teams do intend to bring this back to Texas. What its fate will be after that, if it's bound for a museum or just to study the heat shield in greater detail once it's back in Texas, we'll have to wait and see. TBD on when Flight 14 will take place. Looking forward to more details on that. Speaking of details on upcoming flights, SpaceX currently in the midst of Starlink ads. So while they're doing that, let's go ahead and talk about the trajectory for the Falcon 9 rocket flying today. Following liftoff at Space Launch Complex 4 East there at Vandenberg Space Force Base, the Falcon 9 flying today will fly on a southwesterly trajectory and target a landing on the drone ship called, of course, I Still Love You, positioned out in the Pacific Ocean. Successful recovery on that drone ship would mark the 219th landing on this particular vessel and the 540th booster landing for SpaceX on any one of its drone ships. In addition to recovering the first stage booster, which is flying for its 12th time, SpaceX also wants to recover and reuse the payload fairing halves that are currently encapsulating the 24 Starlink V2 Mini optimized satellites. Once down in the waters of the Pacific Ocean, they'll be brought aboard a recovery vessel like the one you see here on your screen, brought through the port of Long Beach, then onto SpaceX facilities where they will be refurbished and turned around for future missions. SpaceX doesn't often talk about the number of flights that its fairing halves have conducted outside of customer missions. That said, they have reflown fairing halves for at least one of them 36 times. I believe there's been one that's flown 37 total times. Speaking of 37 flights, Booster 1067 is getting ready for its 37th flight on an upcoming Starlink mission set to fly later this month. In the meantime, we've got this Starlink mission on tap for you, set to lift off in just about 4.5 minutes' time.
Strong back retract has started.
Good call there. In just a moment or two, you'll see the clamp arms beneath the payload fairing open up. Just make that out through the vapor. Then the large truss structure, the strong back, will recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Again, here at Vandenberg, it pulls back about 13 degrees from the launch vehicle, and it will stay in that position up to and through liftoff. See it getting into motion now. Coming up on 3 minutes in the count, you should hear a call regarding first stage liquid oxygen load wrapping up.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
With that call behind them, we are now awaiting a similar call on the upper stage liquid oxygen tank at around T-minus 2 minutes.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And with that call, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. Momentarily, we'll see some additional venting. Actually, you can just start to see it beginning there on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. There's the ground gas closeouts.
Ground gas closeouts.
This is SpaceX venting out the remaining liquid oxygen from the feed lines there at the pad. We're coming into the final minute of the countdown, in which the Falcon 9 rocket will enter into its automated startup. That'll begin at T-minus 1 minute. Then at T-minus 45 seconds, the SpaceX launch director will confirm if in fact they are go for launch.
Falcon 9 has entered startup.
LDs, go for launch.
And with that good go for launch call, we're going to go ahead and step back on our commentary, watch along with you, and join you on the other side of liftoff.
T minus 3 seconds. T minus 15 seconds. T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go Starlink.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressures are nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Now a little more than a minute into flight.
Max Q.
Rocket passing through max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Falcon 9 will now be throttling back up on the 9 Merlin 1D engines as it approaches MVAC chill, the chill down of the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's upper stage.
MVAC chill.
There's that call out. SpaceX is coming up to a few events in quick succession next. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, at about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds. That'll be followed by stage separation and then the ignition of that Merlin vacuum engine. Payload fairing halves will separate about 3 minutes into flight, just more than 2 minutes into the mission now. Less than half a minute remaining before MECO.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC startup.
Two parts of the rocket now on their own distinct trajectories. The hypersonic grid fins on the booster deploying. Fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And a good view of those 24 Starlink V2 optimized satellites. One of those fairing halves making its way back to the Pacific Ocean. Those fairing halves will splash down in the oceanic waters a little bit further downrange from where the booster is set to land on the drone ship called Of Course I Still Love You. Now about 3.5 minutes into the flight, so far appearing to be a nominal mission for both the first and second stages. Coming up next will be the 3-engine entry burn, which will dramatically slow the booster down as it targets that soft landing on the drone ship. Entry burn set to begin right about 6 minutes into the flight today, lasting less than half a minute in duration. You can see the paths of both the first and second stages with that trajectory map there on the left side of your screen. Looks like the booster topping out at 113 or 114 kilometers in altitude. Now it's starting to make its descent towards the drone ship. Sounds like for some folks in the central to Southern California area, there was a nice lunar transit of the rocket tonight. If you were able to capture a photo or video of that, we'd love to see it. Be sure to tag us on social media. Again, you can find us most places by simply searching for Spaceflight Now. Currently 5 minutes into the flight tonight. There's a look through the interstage there on the left-hand side of your screen. Less than 1 minute remaining until the tri-engine entry burn. Both the entry and the landing burn see the first stage booster, in this case B-1097, fly back through its own exhaust plume. Falcon 9 burns a combination of RP-1, that rocket-grade kerosene, and liquid oxygen as the oxidizer. The entry and landing burns help to build some of that soot up on the skin of the rocket, giving it a characteristic sooty appearance. See with the boosters that have flown more and more.
Stage 1 FTS is safe.
Stage 1 entry burn startup. Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And with the conclusion of that entry burn, coming up next will be the single engine landing burn, which again designed to take booster 1097 all the way down to the drone ship for what will hopefully be a soft landing. Startup of the entry burn on the single center engine set to start just a little bit ahead of the 8-minute mark in flight, so less than 1 minute from now. In short order, around the time of the landing burn, we hear some calls like the upper stage engine
Stage 1
heading into terminal
transport.
guidance. Means its burn is about to conclude. Also, the first stage booster's flight termination system will be safed.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
There's that second stage FTS being safed.
Stage 1 landing burn. Landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And booster 1097 completing its 12th trip to space and back.
MVAC shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And with a good orbit achieved, the upper stage will now coast until T plus 52 minutes 35 seconds. There will be a brief 1 second burn to circularize its orbit. Then the Starlink satellites will be deployed at T plus 1 hour, 1 minute, 27 seconds post liftoff. And with a good liftoff and landing and the upper stage well on its way to deliver the Starlink satellites, let's go ahead and turn to our mission stats as they currently stand. Good liftoff, good landing marked the end of Flight 12 for Booster 1097. That was SpaceX's 79th Falcon 9 launch to date, the 97th launch of 2026. 98th orbital launch for SpaceX this year, including one Falcon Heavy rocket launch. Second Falcon Heavy coming up right around the corner, as a matter of fact. August 30th is the date SpaceX, NASA, set to launch the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. Much more on that coming up in the weeks leading up to launch. This was the 614th Falcon booster reflight, or the launch of a booster that has flown at least once. This was the company's 162nd orbital launch within the last 365 days. This was SpaceX's 223rd orbital launch from Pad 4 East, the 291st overall orbital launch from this pad as well. Here's a look at the Falcon family bar chart. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 219th landing of a booster successfully on the drone ship called Of Course I Still Love You, marking SpaceX's 540th drone ship landing, the 651st booster landing for SpaceX, the 654th overall landing of a orbital class rocket. Actually, need to correct that. This would be the 655th now, including the JQ-3. Moving on to some industry stats. This was the 55th orbital launch from California, the 108th from U.S. soil, the 119th from U.S. Rocket Company, the 197th launch attempt around the world. There have been 7 orbital mishaps so far this year. Just look at the pie chart where things currently stand. And that'll just about do it for us here on the launch of the Starlink 17-50 mission. Before we go ahead and wrap this up entirely, do want to thank a few more folks for your support in the live chat. I want to thank Lynn Shapiro for gifting a Spaceflight Now membership, and to